All right. Good Thanksgiving? Yeah? All right. Right on. Man, I just got to say, I am so thankful for this church. Last week we talked about, I shared about Peru and how Kevin and Jessica could use some help out there. And so many people responded that we don't need that many. Okay, I need some of you guys to stick around. But it was just so cool to hear how many people were saying, I'm considering going. My family's thinking about going. We're thinking about going. Why not devote a year of our lives to going to Peru? And gosh, that's just so exciting to me, and many of you that said, gosh, I don't even speak Spanish, or maybe I can babysit. But we came up with so many babysitters that we don't need so many. We just need one. And what a great problem to have, though, to say, you know what, too many people responded and we don't need that many right now. That's just exciting. I mean, you really would just be hard-pressed to find another church where someone gets up one week and says, hey, we need some people to go to Peru, and then the next week says, hey, too many of you. Okay, not that many, just a few. And that's just so exciting to me, because my prayer has always been, God, make us a church that does things. Okay, not just a church that talks, not just a church that cries and gets convicted, but actually does something. The Bible says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, it says, in the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven. See, what's going to cause the world out there to give glory to God, to actually praise God? It says it's when the world actually sees our good deeds. I think one of the turnoffs to church for many of the people in the world today, especially in America, is the church talks, but they don't do anything. And they see the church as a place that's so judgmental and wanting to take stuff from them, rather than a place where we are actually doing things and doing things for other people and caring for them. I pray all the time that we would be a giving church, that we would be known as a church that gives, that Simi Valley would know Cornerstone as a church that contributes and gives to the community, rather one that takes. And so I got to ask you again, as you came in this evening, did you come in to give to other people? Did you look for people to minister to care for? Did you come with that type of heart, saying, God, just help me run into people who maybe have some needs that maybe I can meet? Did you come here to serve? Did you come here to give? Because wouldn't that be awesome if that were our reputation? I was thinking about that, and so few churches are known for giving. In fact, I was trying to think if I knew of a church that was known for being a giving church. We know of churches that are great at outreach, and they're known for that, that they can get people who are seeking and they show up to church. I know of churches that are so well known for their teaching, man, their theology, they can just, they can just nail it. They're so knowledgeable. I know of churches with all these different distinctions, what they're known for. But I was trying to think, do I know of a Christian church that is known for giving? That they just have a heart for the poor. They have a heart for people. You walk in and it just seems like everyone wants to give to you, and they're constantly giving all around the world. I'm saying, God, I would love to be known for that. That people would look at our actions, what we do, and not be turned off, but actually turned on for God, attracted to God. I was, a couple of weeks ago, I had to speak out in Maui, and I know. I knew you guys would feel compassionate for me. But, what was funny, though? It was like, I think 3 weeks ago. The funniest thing is I get there to speak, and they are just, the pastor gets up. It was like their 100-year anniversary. They're in this big celebration, some outreaches. And they were just so gracious, going, we cannot believe that Pastor Chan would actually come out here. And I'm going, I'll do anything for the gospel, anything. But as I was out there, I was, God just puts different people in your path, and there was this guy, this young man named Jason, and I was trying to share with him about God, and he was just so turned off by it all, just absolutely turned off by everything. And, we got together several times, and while I was there, and I had just making no progress whatsoever. But the thing he kept coming back to, he goes, because my mom was this devout Christian. And, man, she would just hammer me with Scripture all the time, just telling me, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, preaching to me about Jesus my whole life, all about Jesus, Jesus. I'm like, yeah. And he goes, what? He goes, what really turned me off? I go, what? He says, my mom died of cancer. He goes, and when she was dying, she was so freaked out. She was so scared. She was terrified. And I remember just looking at her one day. I go, Mom, you know what? Just knock it off. If you really believe this Jesus thing you say you believe in, you'd be excited to die. He goes, you don't believe this. Look at you all terrified. You've been preaching me your whole life. And now when it comes down, to something where you're actually going to see this one you love, you're freaked out and you don't want to go. He goes, don't go turning on what you believe now. It was just amazing listening to this unbeliever's perspective. He said it just frustrated me because she preached one message her whole life, how she looked forward to seeing God, but then when the time came, everything changed, and she freaked out. And I could just tell this guy was just holding on to that. It was just bugging him like, you know what, this isn't real. I don't see the action. I've heard the talking my whole life, but when it got difficult, I didn't see the works. I didn't see the action. And that's why I pray. I go, God, you know what? May we be a church that doesn't just talk about this stuff. The world has seen enough of that. I've used that illustration before of how it's like if you went to a football game and the quarterback, although there's probably not a lot of football fans in here because they're all watching the SC game at home right now. But, it's like if you're watching a football game and it's like Peyton Manning, calling the Colts together and he draws up a play. He goes, hey, here's what we're going to do. And then they break and then they all run back to the bench. And 30 seconds later, they come back out. He calls another play out of the playbook. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And they break and they all run back to the bench. You see, that's what the Christian church looks like. To most of the people in the world. That we get together once a week and the quarterback calls a play and goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to love our enemies, all right? And everyone goes, yeah. High five, break, and we run and we sit on the bench. And come back and wait till next week. Oh, I can't wait to get back in that huddle. Can't wait till he calls another play that we won't run. That's the way they view the church. And that's why the Bible says, you know what? Let them see your good deeds. That they glorify your Father who's in heaven. And that's what I've just grown to love at this church is more and more of you just stepping up and going, you know what? This is everything to me. I'll give my life for it. I'll do it. Peru, okay, great. Let me figure out how to get my family over there. It's like, that is so exciting because this is something that is so valuable that we should be able to give anything for this, to give everything up for this. I want to tell you about some plans here at the church. Last week I talked about, I think I jokingly said, maybe not this service, about how we're going to solve world hunger this weekend. Did you guys hear me say that? Okay. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to talk about it tonight. We're just going to talk and not do anything. No. For the last couple years, a couple years ago, I looked at our budget, and honestly, I wasn't thrilled with it. I was like, it's just not right. We're spending a lot on ourselves. Okay, a lot of the money that comes in is going toward us rather than going out to the world and ministering to other people. We're supposed to be a giving type of church. And so over the last couple of years, we've been really working hard at cutting costs here at the church in order to give more. But one of the things that's been motivating us even more and really preparing for 2007 is just some things we've been learning as we've been studying church trends and seeing how much churches in America spend on themselves. And so it's like we've been real convicted about it and trying to figure out a different way to cut costs. I'm going to have Todd Tucker, who works in our finance department. I asked him to research some things, just kind of countrywide, not countrywide, but countrywide here. And he's just going to give you a report of some of the things he found and then some things that we could do.
First off, my name is Todd Tucker. I'm one of the pastors here at Cornerstone, and as Francis mentioned, I'm in charge of kind of the finance, HR, and some of the administrative areas. And before I show you some statistics, I just want to tell you some stuff that's been going on in my wife, Tayden, and her life and my life over the past couple of months. We've really been, just through a lot of the sermons here at Cornerstone, feeling like we've settled into a safe Christianity, and that we've kind of just gone about our business doing the 10% to the church, 10% to savings, and then do whatever we want with the rest. And so as we were looking at that, we started thinking, is the church in America like that? Because we're kind of products of that. And so I went across and found some research from a group called Empty Tomb. They're located in Illinois, a Christian organization. And for the past several years, they've been surveying churches and denominations to see what the giving trends are in churches in America. And a lot of the data is very denominationally driven. So it wouldn't include churches like Cornerstone. But it goes back all the way to 1921 and looks at some giving trends all the way up through 2004. So I want to show you a slide. And this is a chart that they had put together dealing with giving as a percentage of income. And I want to point out a couple of things. If you look at the per capita income column, what that refers to is you take all the income that was generated in the United States and divide it by the number of people in the country at the time, and you get a per capita income. And so it's not an average salary, it's just basically spreading our income out over all of the people in the United States. In 1921, the per capita income was $4,971 a year, and that's been inflation adjusted to the year 2000, so that $1 in 1921 is equivalent to $1 in the year 2000. And at that time, people in churches were giving on average 2.9% of their income to the church. During the Great Depression, this is the one that really stuck out for me, the per capita income had dropped, yet people were giving a higher percentage of their income, giving upwards of 3.3%. And then if you fast forward to the year 2004, and you look at the per capita income in the United States has jumped significantly to over $27,000 per person, and our giving has gone down to 2.5%. And so what we're seeing is that as our income has gone up exponentially, our giving has dropped. And I think that's kind of a sad statement on the state of the church in America. This was a sample of 11 Protestant denominations, so there's some denominations that gave higher than this, but most of them never got above really the 5 to 6% range on average. And when I look at a slide like this, I think of verses like in Luke 21 where Jesus is in the temple and the rich are putting their money into the treasury, and then a widow comes in and gives her 2 coins, and Jesus says that she's given more than the rich did because they gave out of their wealth, but she's giving out of her poverty. And when I look at a stat like this, I feel like as the church in America, we're giving out of our wealth. We're not giving out of our poverty. We're not giving by faith. So after looking at that, I thought, well, what are we doing at Cornerstone? And so this next slide is going to be full of some assumptions, so it's not an absolute. The number that's absolute, though, is the total contributions. From the time period of July 1, 2005 through June 30 of 2006, we had nearly $5.9 million come in, and that's for general offering and things like supporting missions and the college and things like that. So that's a good number, and I just want to tell you, coming on staff here, it's so neat to see a church that responds when needs are put in front of you, and we have seen awesome examples of this church responding to give. And so when I look at that number, I get pretty excited, thinking $5.9 million, that's a great number. But then I wanted to do some kind of assumptions, so I looked at the average number of attendees that come to Cornerstone per weekend, and that would be adults. And we have around 4,000. It might be just a little shy of that. In the church, then we try to break down and say, of those 4,000 people, there's probably around 1,500 giving units. So you have families that are in there that would give. In Simi Valley, according to Fortune magazine's most recent report on best places to live, our median household income in Simi Valley is just over $85,000. And so what that means is 50% are making more than $85,000 and 50% are making below $85,000. 85 is that middle point. So if you just took some rough numbers and said there are 1,500 giving units in our church, and if you just assume that we were right at the median household income, we would be having an estimated household income from people at this church of over $127 million. I don't know if that's an accurate figure or not, but that's a nice chunk of money. Then if you take contributions at 10%, we would have $12.7 million coming in. And when you look at the difference between almost $6 million and over $12 million, if our church, if these numbers were true, that we had 1,500 giving units and our median income was $85,000, we could have an additional nearly $6 to $7 million that we could give and give out to the poor. And the concern in putting a slide like this up is I don't want you to think we're begging for your money for us. We're looking at our budgets for next year, trying to do our best at slimming down what we spend on ourselves and giving more out to the poor and out to the work of missions. The next slide is back to the study by Empty Tomb. And they had looked and said, okay, in the year 2004, if everybody that historically called themselves Christians, were part of the Christian church, gave 10% of their income, an additional $164 billion would have been raised. A huge number. And then they said if we took 60% of that and gave it to missions, overseas missions, we'd have $98.4 billion to spend on overseas missions. Then you could take 20% and cover your domestic missions and have $32.8 billion. And then knowing that to pull something like this off is going to take a lot of administrative work, they had just taken a number of another 20% that you'd use for administration, and that would give you the another $32.8 billion. So in the church in America, if we just gave 10%, just a tithe, we would be able to bring in an additional $164 billion that could be used for global evangelism. Now, the final slide I want to show you is an estimate that Empty Tomb had come up with for what it would take to take care of certain needs in a given year. And they estimated that in a given year, if you wanted to do global evangelism, you would need $1 billion. If you wanted to end global child deaths for children under the age of 5, you would need $5 billion. And then providing basic education across the globe, you would need $7 billion. So that's $13 billion per year. They went further and said $70 to $80 billion per year could provide the basic needs of every person on the globe per year. And so when I looked at that, I just thought, what is happening in the church in America today? I feel like we've fallen asleep to a certain extent. Because if we just gave 10%, we could basically, the church in America could take care of all the basic needs for people across the world. And routing back with what Francis is talking about, they'll see our good deeds so that they may glorify our Father who is in heaven. I don't want you to think that I'm throwing these slides up to manipulate you or guilt you into anything. These were eye-opening to me to think if I just trusted God with my money and gave to him out of faith, amazing things could happen. And that's been a challenge that my wife and I have been wrestling through of how do we play a part in that. And I think Cornerstone has the great opportunity to be a church because we do respond when God puts things in front of us. We have a great opportunity to maybe get out on the front end of this and really start stretching ourselves so that we can take care of the poor and the needy across the world and in turn introduce them to Jesus Christ.
Well, there's some crazy numbers. I mean, just a thought that just $5 billion would, if we could give that annually, how that would end the deaths of those who are dying that are under 5, because of a lack of nutrition and everything else. I just think, gosh, that's a crazy number. That's nothing. That's just a drop in the bucket. And so here's my thought is, now I'm not saying that every church in the world is going to jump on board with this, but I really believe that if Cornerstone sets the pace and sets the example, there's so many people that watch Cornerstone Church to see what we're doing all across the nation. They want to know what is Cornerstone doing. Believe it or not, you get out there and they want to know. And if we really can, what we're trying to do now as a church is based upon this whole idea of love your neighbor as yourself. We've been trying to work our budget to say, okay, let's love those outside of the church as much as we love those inside. Let's give out as much as we spend on ourselves. Let's see if we can't get our budget cut in half so that half of the money that we receive from here goes out and only half is spent for the operating budget, because the average in America is something like 92% of what comes into a church is spent on the church itself. And so we're saying, well, if we can get that to 50 and be an example of that, and not only that, but increase giving, and we begin to show people, look how much you can give. Because the problem with stats like this is everyone gets convicted about it, but who actually does something about it? And do you know of a church that's able to give half of everything they bring in, out to the church, out of the church walls, out to the poor and everywhere else? And so we're working our budget trying to do that. At the same time, we're hoping that we can increase giving next year and give. I would love to, not saying that we're going to be able to pull it off, I would love to, and I think we can. I think we will, and I'm doing everything I can to get there. I would love to know that half of what comes in here goes straight to the poor one day. Not just outreach and not just out of these walls, but straight to the poor, and then also have a ton left over for outreach and everything else. So those are kind of the dreams. That's kind of the direction we're going. And I believe that if Cornerstone sets the example and sets the pace in that area, that it takes away the excuses from all the other churches in America. Say, look, we're in Southern California. We got a high cost of maintaining things out here, and yet we're able to do it. And why? Because we lay down our rights. We lay down the things that we deserve and we could spend on ourselves for the sake of our brothers who needed more. I mean, that's the Bible. That's 1 John 3:16 and 17. And so we really want to pursue that as a church. And I'll let you know as things go, as we continue to progress in that. But the question that keeps coming up, too, is I've had several of you ask, how can we justify building a huge building over there in Tirahata in light of everything you've been saying about the poor? And believe me, there's no one that struggles with that more than I do. I'd be very surprised if anyone in this church thinks about that more than I do. Maybe you do. But this stuff keeps me up at night. It's like, Lord, I mean, a new building on there, it's probably going to be $30 million, something like that. That's a lot of money. How can we justify this? How can we justify that? To let you know, none of the elders have felt peace about this. This whole idea of a huge building or whatever, at least at this point, we're just going, man, just doesn't feel right, doesn't seem right. And so I've got an idea. And you got to listen. You got to hear the whole thing before. And okay, you guys, I've been praying about this one. I've been thinking about this so much. What if, just thinking, and we're not sure this will work or whatever else, it's just kind of the direction we're heading right now. What if we didn't build a building out there? What if we just built like a park with a huge outdoor amphitheater? Kind of like a Hollywood Bowl type of thing, or, just something where it was just a huge grass field, a huge grass outdoor amphitheater. And we saved all of that money, all those millions of dollars, and we're able to give that to the poor. And what if on Saturday afternoon, for church, you grabbed a picnic basket and blanket and took your family out there and just had dinner out there with thousands of other people, in a park, kids on the swings, hanging out, whatever else, and then suddenly someone gets up there with the guitar and we start worshiping just under the stars, or actually, with the sunset. We would keep it during the warmer time, just during the daytime, and just kind of, and every time you went to church, you knew the reason why we're sitting outside is because we're sacrificing for the sake of those who are in need all around the world. And what if there was a church that just, when we got together and sacrificed some of our typical luxuries, and we sat out there, and I think we'd end up realizing we're not sacrificing anything. It's pretty awesome to worship God outside. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? And we'd probably have like a support facility, for some that maybe are elderly and have to be, be indoors, or, have some shade, have some different things. Maybe we'd still do, keep some of this campus and do satellite here, or maybe keep Sunday mornings. And this. We haven't figured it all out, but we still have to run it by the city, and that's why I wanted to bring it up to you guys. It'll be a lot easier, I believe, to pass this through the city in a green belt than putting a building up, to say, look, we're just going to improve that patch of weeds out there and turn it into a beautiful park. Maybe it's even a park that we open up to the community and say, gosh, this is our gift to the community that you guys can use throughout the week. Doesn't that just seem so like, I just get so excited about it. I go, God, I'd love to be outside right now and just preaching to you and looking up and going, man, look at the stars God made and everything else. I would love to have come an hour early and just hung out with the family and all of your families and let the kids run around and just laughing and playing and fellowshipping and having time for each other and everything else. And so that's where we're pursuing for now, is say, okay, what if we can do this? What if we can pull this off? And we, before we kind of hesitate in saying, here's some plans, because it might not work. The city may shut it down, but just same with the building. We don't know if they would ever let us build out there, whatever. But at the same time, we want to let you know ahead of time that this is what we want to pursue, and we want you to pray about it. We want, I just really believe God can make anything happen. And I just think this would be such a statement to our community that we're serious about. We want to be givers. Here's a park that's for you. Use it, and then on the weekends, we have services there where you're welcome to join us, to hang out, for you guys to be at the park throughout the week and share your faith with people and let people know that, hey, I come here for services on the weekend. That'd be awesome. And then for the world to know, man, there's this weird church in Simi Valley that, man, they were so concerned about the poor. They were so fanatic about the poor that they're willing to meet outside so they give the money to the poor. And what if that started, a trend or, something where more and more churches just said, yeah, why aren't we caring for the poor? We could solve world hunger. The church can solve world hunger easily, if the congregations just gave and the churches spent wisely. And I'm going, oh, this could happen. And I can't think of a more exciting thing for me to do in my lifetime than to start that type of movement. And so I just ask for your prayers, covet your prayers. Pray for yourself. And one of the things I thought about was, people go, well, what about in the winter? It might get cold. And you guys, you ever heard of the Green Bay Packers? I was in Green Bay last winter. And I tried to get tickets to a Packer game because I thought, man, I'm in Green Bay. Speaking in Green Bay, I got to try to you can't get tickets to a Packer game. That's impossible. You got to wait years to get a ticket to a Packer game. And they're in blizzard conditions for 3 hours. Why? Because they're fanatic. They are. They're fanatic about the Green Bay Packers. And I'm like, can't we sit out in the cold for an hour for the poor to show the world what we're fanatic about? I was like, I'll preach in the rain. I don't care. I'll do whatever it takes. And, and who knows? We'll figure out some different things and shade and whatever else. But I just want you to pray. I want you to pray like crazy, because we're going to start approaching the government now. We're going to start approaching the city officials now. The new, I don't know if they've even figured out the Ventura supervisor yet. Have they? They're still counting, huh? Okay. Well, Foy's ahead. Praise God. No, I didn't say that. He's just excited about what we're doing here, and so it's good to know that. Anyways, there you go. I need to move on. I shouldn't have said that. Okay. But are you guys excited about the future yeah, I just get pumped. Man. I have never been so excited to pastor as I am right now, because I go, man, this is a movement. This is huge. This is so cool. And I just think of the millions of dollars that we're going to be giving, and we're going to be seeing the difference. And we're going to see, pictures of places that we go, where the poor exist, and show you, just schooling and feedings and, orphanages and stuff all around the world. And I want to be known for that, because that's what Jesus was known for, was he was just giving. But all the while, you got to make sure that we don't neglect those who are in this room. And that's why I say, when we walk in these doors, yes, we're all about giving out to the world, but we have to be about giving to one another. And so that's what that video was about last week, about, man, let's not pass each other by. Let's care for one another, love one another, and let's be a church that's known for giving, because Jesus didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. And 1 John 3 says, because he gave us that example of love, that's the way we ought to be for one another and to the rest of the world. Now this week, This is, I'm sharing from James, and this is a passage that honestly I have been intimidated to teach because it is just one of those life-changing passages, and I just go, God, I don't know if I can do this justice. This is so important. I don't want you to ever forget this passage. This passage has stuck with me for years. I love it, and that's why I'm intimidated to teach it. And here's the thing. Okay, in fact, for part of my message, I'm not going to teach it. I want you to tell me what the verses mean. Because, okay, when I preached that message several months ago on being lukewarm, you guys remember that one? Okay. No, yeah, vaguely. The lukewarm message, I had people going, well, Francis says that if I'm lukewarm, I'm going to hell. I didn't say that. Okay, that was Jesus. Okay, that was from the Bible. I was just reading. Okay, I didn't write that part. And I thought about this passage in James chapter 2, where he talks about faith and works. And I didn't want anyone walking away tonight and go, well, Francis. No, I'm not saying this. Okay, so I'm going to put James 2, verse 14, first verse, up there on the screen. And I want you to tell me what it means. What good is it, my brothers, if a man claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save him? Faith produces deeds. Good. So what else?
Authentic faith is manifested in actions consistent with that faith.
Authentic faith is manifested in actions that's consistent with that faith. Okay, what else does it say to you? Faith without works is dead. Okay, good. What else? What else does that verse say? I mean, just in simple English, as you just tear it apart, what is it saying? Yeah. There is a faith that's dead. Okay, so there's like a faith that doesn't work. Okay.
It's saying, what good is your faith? What good is your faith if there is no deed? So why have faith if you have no deeds?
Yeah. Yeah, he says, what good is your faith if you have no deeds? Why even have faith if you have no deeds? Okay, good. What else is it clearly saying from those words up there? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Deeds are a product of faith. There you go. What's that? Can faith without deeds save a person? According to this verse, what do you think that the answer to that second question is? Can such faith save him? Okay, so I didn't say that, right? All I did was ask a question. Okay, you guys email each other. Okay, can such faith save him? And the answer is no. Well, what faith not save him? What faith doesn't save? Faith without deeds. So, but what if a person says that he believes and says he believes and he cries about it and he comes forward and just says, man, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this thing, and you remember when they made the decision and everything else, even though there's no actions. I mean, what about when they sincerely meant it? If they sincerely meant it, they would do deeds. Okay, her, okay, mad at her. Okay, what else? What else does it say? Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Yeah, she says what's really in your core of your heart is going to come out in the actions. It's like, so even if I say, gosh, I'm going to, in all my heart believe that I'm going to start working out every day, until I'm at the gym, it's not real. It's not real. Yeah. So she's saying like the Holy Spirit, if he's really in you, he convicts you, and you can't sit there and not do anything. It's like this overwhelming. The Bible says in Romans about how we're slaves to righteousness. We just have to do the right thing. It's like, gosh, he pushes me that way. And so he's saying, what good is it, my brothers, if a man claims, so with his mouth, says he has faith, but has no deeds. So do we all agree that if a person, I'm asking because I don't know. Okay, I don't know what it means. I'm not teaching this week. Okay, if a man says that he's a Christian or a woman, right? Is it both? Okay, good. Just making sure. Okay, if a person just says that he's a Christian, but there are no actions to show it, is it safe to say that that person is not saved? Okay, whatever you say. Okay, let's go to the next verse, the next set of verses. Verses 15 to 17. Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to him, "Go, I wish you well, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about his physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by actions, is dead. What is that saying to us? Take care of the poor. Okay. What is it saying? Take care of others. Words don't keep you warm and fed. Good. Good intentions are not enough. That's good.
And just saying you have faith doesn't do any good. It's not truth anything.
Okay.
Carry to the poor and not believe in that.
Good. I like when Linda talks. I don't have to repeat it. Everyone can hear you. You project. That's good. That's good. What else?
What good is it if I'm just mouthing a benediction, but I'm not actually taking care of practical needs of those in need?
Yeah, what good is it if I'm just mouthing a benediction and I'm not actually... You know, it's interesting you use that phrase because that word, "go, I wish you well," it actually was a phrase that the Jews would use. You know, it was like this warm kind of goodbye. Hey, go, I wish you well. And that was a phrase that they would use. And the whole idea of keep warm and well fed, it's hard to tell in the Greek whether it's a passive or a middle. In the middle voice, it would mean go, feed yourself, keep yourself warm. In the passive sense, it would mean that, hey, I hope that someone takes care of you. I hope that someone feeds you. I hope that someone keeps you warm. So there's this whole idea of, he goes, hey, what good does it do if a guy comes up to you, he's starving, he's hungry, and you go, oh man, I wish you well. You offer him just these sweet words, and then you go, gosh, I hope someone takes care of you. Because it doesn't do any good. He goes, in the same way, faith in and of itself, if not accompanied by actions, is dead. You know, I like what Norm said about good intentions are not enough. I think sometimes as Christians, we can pat ourselves on the back by being convicted. You know, like, oh, I was really convicted by that message. You know, oh, that message made me cry. It's like, okay, but your convictions aren't going to keep anyone warm. Your convictions don't feed anyone. Your intentions don't do it. It's literal action. And in the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by actions, is dead. What do you get from that last verse? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. I'm going to ask someone else. Actions speak louder than words. Good, yeah. Words serve me, actions serve others. Well, that's good. That's pretty profound there from a forklift salesman. That's good, man. That's good, Paul. Did you got that from someone else? You just made that up just now. Wow. You're in the wrong business, man. That's good. That's good. Yeah. Faith without love is empty. Good. What else is that last verse saying? Come on, Paul, what is that last one? That was really good. I was lifting you up. And
Living faith would be accompanied by action.
yeah. Yeah, a living faith would be accompanied by actions. Understand what this passage is not. This passage in James is not comparing faith and works. Okay? This is not, it's not putting faith on one side and works on the other. What it is doing is putting a living faith on one side versus a dead faith on the other. Okay, those are the two things that are in opposition. See, a lot of times in the Christian world, we get mixed up thinking that, well, either you're about faith or you're about deeds. And the Bible does not put those two in what's that? Competition, juxtaposition? Is that the right word, Paul? Juxtapositioning? It doesn't put them at odds. Rather it explains, and in this passage, over these 13 verses, faith and works are used together 10 times. Okay, so faith and works are not enemies. Okay, living faith and dead faith is what we're comparing here. Okay, the living faith has works attached to it. The dead faith, which does not save, has no action, and that's what it's referring to here. Next verse, verse 18. See, here's the dichotomy we want to make sometimes. Verse 18, but someone will say, well, you have faith, I have deeds. And James says, show me your faith without deeds, and I'll show you my faith by what I do. Okay, see, this is the division that somehow has taken place in the Christian world sometimes. People will say, well, they're all about works, and I'm all about faith. And James is going, that doesn't make any sense. You show me your faith. How does your faith look without deeds? And I'll show you my faith by what I do. He says, your actions explain your faith. They show your faith. And I really like this phrase because it says, I will show you my faith by what I do. I will show you my faith by what I do. What does that mean? You guys explain to me. I'm sorry, I started preaching. What's that? Hebrews 11. Yeah. Hebrews 11 talks about all these great men and women of faith, and it talks about what they did. And that's why they made that chapter. Well, yeah, you know what I mean. They made it in. Never mind. You guys keep preaching, okay, and I'll laugh at you. Okay. Speech. Okay, well, what is that? What does it mean to show your faith by what you do? It's supposed to be examples to others. Yeah. That's good. It shows you how much you love the Lord. Did you have something to add to that? Or? Yeah. 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 She's talking about, where you show your faith is at work. I mean, people say, well, integrity is who you are when no one else is around. And I say, no, I think integrity is who you are at work. Because that's where you spend most of your time, So who you really are usually comes out at work. And if there's no integrity in the workplace, chances are there's no integrity. And here someone else was saying your heart, your actions will come out. And so when you don't see that true in the workplace, it really destroys the testimony of the church. But an interesting thing about this phrase is he's saying, I'll prove to you. I'll prove to you that I have faith by my actions. That means someone should be able to look at my actions and know that I have faith. Is that true of you? That if someone did not hear that you were a Christian, they never heard you say with your mouth, they didn't see the Just Stop and Think bumper sticker, they didn't see the fish on your car, they didn't, see the Bible in your hand, they just saw your actions, well, they look at your actions and go, wow, that guy's got to have faith. Because why else would he do that? Why else would she do that? You see, the idea was your actions are so extreme, so crazy to the world, they would look at it and go, wow, that guy must have some serious faith. She must have some serious belief in something because of what she does. It's because of the actions. And something I want to point out to you that I think we do in the church is sometimes we act as though all of those people outside of this place are so evil It's like, oh, it's all these Hitlers out there, and they know that I'm a Christian because I'm nice. Okay, I've met some of the nicest people who don't believe in Jesus. Haven't you? See, that's the thing, is so does being nice show that you're a Christian? Well, but I give. I give. Well, there's Oprah gives. Brad Pitt gives. Yeah, I mean, these are the people that are known for giving, Bill Gates gives. And I don't know if they're believers or not. I'm just saying that people give. So that doesn't necessarily show it. But I love people. Okay, so the people outside these walls don't love? They love. So what's the difference? How do my actions show that I believe? Well, while they're kind out there, and while they love, one thing that isn't done in the world is loving your enemies. Remember, Jesus says even unbelievers love those who love them. But I'm telling you, as my followers, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Remember when those Amish people just had their children killed? And remember the testimony of that when they went back and forgave the people who killed their own children? And remember how, the reporters just didn't even know what to do with that? They're like, what? They went and they sought them out to forgive the ones that killed their... They didn't know what to do with that kind of love. See, that's the love where the world finally goes, oh, okay, well, they must believe something. They believe their actions showed their faith. It proved it. See, that's a type of love. See, because they'll love, but will they love their neighbor as much as they love themselves? See, that's Christian love. Love your neighbor as yourself. Those types of deeds. Because don't kid yourself into thinking, well, I love, so I'm good. There's my actions. No, everyone loves. We all love those who love us back. It's when we can love our enemies. Everyone has some sort of love. It's when you love the poor as much as you love yourself. That's weird. That's something to talk about. That's suddenly a faith. Those are works that show your faith. When you give, not just like the world gives, but what the world gives, but they don't give to the point where they're depending on God to take care of their needs. They're not giving to the point where it requires faith in this being up there because they don't believe in a being up there. You see, those are the types of actions that James talks about. It's actions that prove your faith. And here's the next verse. This is really important because I've been to many churches that have said, yeah, they give, they love, they serve, just like we do, but their theology is off. Their theology, and I've been to churches, man, that know their theology, backwards, forwards. I mean, they're just good at it all. But you got to understand, theology in itself is not enough. And that's what he says in this verse, verse 19. You believe that there is one God. See that phrase, you believe there is one God. Does anyone know where that's taken from? Shema Israel. Ooh, look at you. Deuteronomy 6, verse 5. And she was starting to quote it in Hebrew. It's called the Great Shema, which means hear or listen, O Israel. The Lord your God is one. Okay, Deuteronomy 6:5 is what a devout Jew would start the day off quoting. He would end the day quoting it. Deuteronomy 6:5 is one of the verses that they'll put in those mezuzahs, that they put on the door and they kiss on the way in, way out. It's Deuteronomy 6:5. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. Okay, none of this plurality of gods that all these other people are believing in. We know that there is one true God. And so he's quoting this. And James is going, so you believe that, right? Just like we would quote John 3:16, and that God so loved the world that he gave. You believe that? He goes, great, good. Even the demons believe that. and shudder. Okay, what does that verse teach you? Yeah. Yeah, he's quoting Matthew 7:21. He says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Not everyone who just knows that he's Lord is going to enter the kingdom of heaven. He says, only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. What else? What else does this verse teach you? It's not enough to believe. It's not enough for intellectual belief. Why? How do you know that? Yeah, because the demons believe, and they're not in great shape. Okay, what else? Yeah. Evil is what? Yeah, they're afraid to admit that they're wrong. Okay, what else? Anything else you get from this verse? Yeah. Accurate theology doesn't necessarily save. Demons have good theology. They have great theology. I mean, they know about God. You remember that passage in is it Matthew 5? Yeah, they know about God, but they don't know God. Mark 5. Mark chapter 5. Remember that passage in Matthew, or in Mark chapter 5, verse 2. Mark 5:2. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs. No one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. He'd been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains off of his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day, among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High? Swear to God that you won't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What's your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. So, what were the demons doing? They knew who Jesus was. They recognized him. They were terrified. It's like, man, don't go sending us out. They understood. I mean, think about what a demon knows. He knows the power of God. He understands that God's more powerful than him. In fact, this word for shudder is literally the word to bristle, or bristle. You know, it's the idea, that's the word bristle. It's the idea of your hair standing up on end. You know, it's like, you know, it's like it's that idea of, man, even the demons, they know that there's only one true God. They know all these other religions are false. They know it. And they're terrified of the one true God. So you're right. Yeah, I know. That's the thing, is I don't think most people that go to church shudder at the thought of God. And the fear of the Lord's the beginning of wisdom. At least they've got that. Sometimes I wonder, you know, are they even further along sometimes than some who attend church, who have no fear of God? So understand, okay, so is it clear the Bible is explaining here that even though your theology may be correct, that's not enough, because the demons believe in an existence of God. So then we go to the next verse, verse 20. I mean, is it clear now? Okay, there's no more. I mean, hopefully by now you're going, okay, I understand it. So just simply believing, that doesn't mean anything. But he says in verse, you know, maybe somebody go, no, I still don't believe. Okay, then verse 20. Verse 20, you foolish man. Okay, so if you're still going, no, come on, you can just believe. Okay, the Bible says you're foolish at this point. You foolish man. Do you need more? Need more evidence? You guys convinced? Okay, because he says if you're not, he goes, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? He goes, what was not our ancestor Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. And the scripture was fulfilled that said, Abraham believed God and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. You see that a person is justified by what he does and not by faith alone. Okay, he points to the example, and I'm just going to finish it off because it's taking too much time, but you guys have done great. He goes, here's an example, Abraham. Okay, he chose Abraham because remember who James is writing to? To the 12 tribes scattered abroad, right? To Jewish people that have been scattered, who've been dispersed. So in writing to a Jewish person, there's no one they respected more than Abraham. Father Abraham had many sons. And he was their father. He was the progenitor. He was the one that everyone would look up to. You said Abraham. It's like, oh, okay. That's one common ground all Jews have is Father Abraham. We respect him. We honor him. And he uses that example, and he uses the example of, you remember when Abraham was going to sacrifice his son Isaac. Now it's interesting because if you read that story in Genesis 22, when Abraham is about to sacrifice his own son, because God asked him to, the angel of the Lord stops him, right? But remember what he says. He says to Abraham, think about this, in verse 12, he goes, now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son. Because, okay, Abraham, now I can see. Okay, your faith is real. You get it. You understand that God is a treasure that's worth giving everything up for, even your own son. So what James is referring to here, he goes, man, don't you understand that it was at that moment, man, when his actions got to that extreme that he was ready to sacrifice the one that he loved more than anything else on this planet. And he says, you know what, I'll even give him up for you, God, because I love you that much. That the angel of the Lord goes, okay, you get it. You get it. Now I can see that you fear God because you're giving it all up. Now some people may, and understand that's the context of verse 24. You see that a person is justified by what he does and not by faith alone. Okay, that's not a contradiction of what Paul teaches in Romans, that we're justified by faith alone. Okay, in context here, he's explained that we are justified by faith, but it's a working faith. It's a living faith, a faith that produces actions. That's the type of faith that we're justified by. And now some may say, some would oppose and go, okay, well, that's Abraham. Of course Abraham would have that type of faith because, God had blessed him so much and given him so many promises. That's why the next example, in verse 25, he decides to use a prostitute. In verse 25, he says, in the same way, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. He uses the illustration of Rahab, the prostitute. And what Rahab did was, remember, really the word isn't spies here, it's the word messengers. Remember the Israelites sent some messengers to check things out in the land, and they were being sought after. And so Rahab allows these two Israelite messengers to hide in her house. And then when the authorities come and ask her, hey, are those guys here? Do you know where they went? And she goes, oh, they went that way. And then she sent the messengers back a different route. Do you understand what she was doing there? She was committing treason. Had she been caught, she was committing treason against her own people. She was risking being ostracized by everyone and being called a traitor and being punished as a traitor, probably killed. But she said, you know what? Out of my faith in this God of Israel and you guys as God, I know that this God's the real God, and so I'm going to protect you guys even if it means I die. See, that was her faith, and the Bible says because it was that type of faith, it was the real deal. That's a saving faith. But any other kind, faith without deeds is dead. He is just like a body without the spirit. What do you call a body without a spirit? Corpse. And he says, in the same way, if you're here today and you say you believe in Jesus Christ and you believe in the one true God who sent his one and only Son to die for you, but you don't have actions that show it, you're a corpse. You don't have a saving faith. That type of faith doesn't save you.